At 7 o'clock, I'm going to call the meeting of the school committee, June 11th, 2024, to order. This is our final meeting of the academic year. So I'll just say right at the top of the meeting, so we don't forget, everybody have a great summer, safe, happy, relaxing. We'll see you in August. No public comment tonight, I'm guessing, because the gallery is completely empty. So we'll jump right into general business and welcome Ashley Paulson, our athletic director, to give us an update on our athletics. Congratulations on the end of your first year.
Thank you. It flew by, to say the least. A lot of exciting events had happened, but I can't believe it's already been a year. I feel like I was just here giving you my first update, so thank you for having me back. So some changes moving with Grafton Middle and High School athletics. Starting in the fall of 2025, we will be moving to the Midland Wachusett League, also known as the Midwatch. The league does consist of 25 other districts. They are going to place us in the A division. Geographically and competitively, it made the most sense for us to go up against schools that we are already competing. Currently being in the Southern Worcester County League, we have to fill our schedule with things called non-league opponents. Right now, a lot of our football games, our tennis matches, our lacrosse games, soccer games, a lot of these games that we've been filling have been with our mid-watch opponents, so it did make sense. We had talked about the last time I had come on where we started that JV2 soccer program this season. We have been expanding, which is almost like a freshman program, as well as on the volleyball side. You'll see that when we move to this league, a lot of these schools have those teams already established in their schools, so we're not going to be having to search for other opponents to play at those levels. Right now, we currently have over 600 student athletes participating in sports at GHS and over 400 registered athletes to participate through GMS athletics. So over at the middle school, I did mention that it's 400 registered just because with sports like basketball, baseball, and softball, unfortunately, we cannot have everyone on the roster with everyone that comes to the tryout. Luckily, we were able to have Dr. Cummings again step in for the track season, and he had over 120 athletes at the middle school participating in Grafton Middle School track. So that was an incredible opportunity for those middle school athletes to be able to have something to do in the spring season. So that's to come in fall of 2025. We will finish up this next cycle with the Southern Worcester County League. Some exciting news that's going to be happening on Monday. We have finally had a partnership with Unibank. This was one of the first projects that I got started on last July when I was hired, and it took a while. I remember like meeting after follow-up. There was a lot of moving parts, and I had gone to Unibank and met with President Chris Foley and his team, and we had come up with this partnership. They have also helped out a couple other districts in the surrounding towns. Millbury, Sutton, they also have Unibank partnerships with their scoreboards. As you can see, most scoreboards range from $25,000 to $30,000. So they were generous enough to give us a check for $25,000 with the Unibank sponsorship. This will be placed at our softball facility. We felt as though it was important for the female athletes to be recognized. We do know that the baseball program also does not have a scoreboard currently. And that I think will be in the works in the years to come. But this was a huge step in the positive direction, especially for female athletics, where this school was built in 2013 and there's never been a scoreboard for the softball facility. So that is actually, they're going to install the poles on Thursday, upcoming Thursday, and then the whole scoreboard will be installed on Monday. So that's some exciting news. Moving into unified sports, we offer 2 seasons of unified sports. In the fall, we have unified basketball, and in the spring, we do unified track and field. This past spring, we actually expanded the opportunities for Grafton Middle School athletes to be able to participate on the unified track team, which was something we had never done before. So that brought in opportunities for some of those middle school students to really get involved. And what unified sports and especially Special Olympics, the partnership that Massachusetts has with them, they offer a end of the year sectional meet where we had 13 schools represented. It was an incredible afternoon. A lot of the kids received medals and ribbons after their races, and just to be able to go to an event like this when you are, trying to expand your inclusion in terms of athletics, it was a really special opportunity for those athletes to be a part of. Moving on to our maintenance department. I kind of combined this with some of our custodians, but also the maintenance staff, because I've worked really closely with both of them in order to get all of these things listed below basically to be accomplished throughout the year. So we have struggled this past spring season to facilitate a facility for our middle school baseball and softball teams to have their games at, due to our varsity baseball team, and we also have a JV team, and we have one field with no lights. So it doesn't give us a lot of wiggle room to be able to have multiple practices right after school. Softball, it was a little bit easier because we only had the varsity team, but we created a space at South Grafton Elementary School. These fields behind their school had not really been worked on, maintained, touched for years. I know our varsity softball coach, John Jem, had mentioned they used them like years and years and years ago, but they were just kind of sitting there, and myself and Dr. Cummings and the Director of Operations, Frank Rothwell, we kind of came together, as well as Shauna Carlson, to see what was out there. In the past, they had our middle school softball team going on a bus to Nelson Park, and then they had our baseball team going to Ferry Street, and sometimes Airport. But I'm not sure if you've seen like what Airport has looked like lately, but they don't really maintain it as well. And I felt it was really important for the kids that I am in charge of, and I'm coordinating their schedules and their buses and their transportation, that I wanted to be able to oversee kind of the facility that those student athletes were going to be practicing and having their games on. So that's kind of where we came together, and we created these fields with the help of a couple outside vendors that really helped us to pull this together in a short amount of time. And I know you all know the spring that we just had, where it basically rained every other day. So it was really hard to get this done, for them to be able to get their games, which started at the end of April, I would say like right after April break. But it was a huge success. We made the best of it. And from an athletic director standpoint, I wanted to help families that had a son on the baseball team and a daughter on the softball team, both middle school athletes, to go to one location and be able to watch both of the games. So that was like an awesome opportunity. From a transportation standpoint, they took one bus, they went to one location. They would get picked up at the middle school, and their parents would pick them up at South Grafton Elementary. So that also helped in terms of budget restrictions versus in the past they were going to two different locations. I was also looking out for other districts that were coming as visiting opponents. They were going to one drop-off location. So overall, I met with the South Grafton Elementary principal, and I made sure that every week I sent out when we were going to be there, what time our games were at. We coordinated with her after-school programs to make sure there was no issues with her bus pickup, with the athletic bus getting dropped off. And I think we did a really good job after the first week. I had no complaints, and we fixed all the little things with the field, and honestly it was a really great success, and I'm excited to keep maintaining those fields, because when you let fields go for a long time, of course it takes a lot more money and a lot more work in terms of hours to get them to be what most people would consider playable. So being able to be on top of those in this next coming school year, I think is a huge advantage for our middle school athletes. We do have some projects that have kind of sprung upon us we don't really know how this happened, but our maintenance department has put together an entire spreadsheet of all these projects that they're doing in terms of athletic ones, but there's also some at all the elementary schools, middle schools in the district. They're going to be replacing all the missing lights on our stadium turf. If you've come to a lacrosse game this past spring, when we did have night games, there was a lot of lights that were missing. So on the side closest to the, what they call the swamp at GHS, it would be very dark. It would be almost impossible to see the lacrosse ball versus if you're a parent or a family member that's watching the game, it's a lot easier to see on the side of the press box. So getting all those fixed, as well as prior to me coming in, all the banners in the gymnasium still have the Indian Head logo behind the banner as well as at the top left-hand corner. So that was a really big project. I basically made a Google sheet with all the information dating back to, 50s, 60s, 70s of league titles, district titles for every sport that Grafton High School has to offer. We also created some new banners for the hockey team. We created a 100-point banner. And we went back in history and saw all the athletes, which was actually a really special moment because one of our seniors, Zach Baker, scored 100 career points this past season. The year before, his brother had done that, and then a couple more years prior, some of the dads on the team had also been a 100-point scorer. So having that banner, I presented it to them at our athletic awards night, was like a really special moment for the hockey program in general. And I think we're now going to start to recognize some of our All-Americans that we've had. We have one female All-American in Grafton High School history for girls lacrosse, Katie Tilsley. She's receiving her third All-American her senior season. And we've had several boys lacrosse players. So really, it's awesome to get like a trophy or a certificate that you bring home, but coming back to your school, whether it's years down the line or you have a younger sibling and seeing your name up in your gymnasium, I think is really special, and that's kind of what it's all about. So replacing them all with a G logo, because if we did a gator, then if we change the logo, I think it's simple, the G, that's not going anywhere. We're always going to be Grafton. And again, Frank, the director of operations, all of the banners are currently in my office, and he'll be replacing them this summer. And then moving on to our last one, we discovered when I went to turn on the scoreboard this past spring season for our lacrosse season that something had happened with the stadium turf, and we believe it's with the wiring, where the wiring goes underneath the ground and then it goes underneath the turf and up to the scoreboard that's on the right-hand side of our football field. So they figured this out during the spring season. They've had multiple electricians come in, tons of vendors that have come and really looked at this because we didn't know if it was just like a small error that we could fix. But Frank has really taken on that workload with Shauna and really worked together with some of our maintenance crew. I'll give Dylan a huge shout out. He's been really, really helpful in kind of figuring out what had happened or how this possibly could have happened with some of the wiring, and they are going to figure out all those logistics and have that up and running by the fall of the 2024 school year. That's all I got.
Great. Any questions from the committee?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Which G are you using? Are you using the high school logo G or the new Grafton logo G?
I want to say it's the only G that I've been given.
Which
So
G
I think
is it?
it's
The high school?
Yeah.
It's the high school G.
It's like
Okay.
almost like a 3D. Some people think it looks like the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
No. Some people.
But I promise you it's not.
Somebody else down here have a question?
I did not have a question, but thank you.
Questions? No? Good.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for coming. And I just wanted to say how great it is to have so many student athletes. So 600 in the high school, 300 at GMS.
Almost 400 registered to. yeah,
Right, registered, so that's about 1,000 students, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. So thank you for continuing to grow the program. It's wonderful. And I also just wanted to just thank you for the work with Unibank. I know that's been long coming. That's an amazing partnership. Hopefully, maybe some of the other banks in the area will see that and we can continue growing that. But I just wanted to give them another shout out and just to thank you for that work. And great job on your first year here.
Thank you so much.
Really been, I've heard wonderful things, and it's been a treat to go watch everybody play, so thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I wanted to, building off the scoreboard, I love that we've given that to the softball team, and that just the care I think you're taking to make sure that women's athletics at the high school is getting the attention and due that it deserves. That's very noticed and very appreciated, which is great. And then I had one question about the unified teams. How do you feel the participation from typically developing peers is in basketball and in track in particular? And what can we do to continue to encourage that, I guess?
Yeah, I think the fall, we do a really good job.
Yeah.
I think just because it is basketball, there's a lot more interest in the
Yeah.
sport, I would say. And we have a lot of our basketball athletes, whether they're on the boys or the girls team, they're willing to help and almost be partners. And they love kind of just being a part of that. So I think the fall we do a really good job. I would say in the spring, we could do a better job in numbers showing and representing Grafton athletics in terms of unified track. Reaching out to the middle school and getting those middle school athletes involved, I think, was huge. There's a lot of logistical things that come into play when you're adding more unified athletes, because some of them need paras or aides to go with them, whether it's an away meet or just for practice because it is after school hours. Some of those things that we did run into this past spring season, but there was a lot of paras that had stepped up and willing to help out after school hours, which was really helpful because it gave those students an opportunity to participate. And just like promoting it school-wide, I think there's, we could do like which I did try and do this past fall season, but like basically go around to our fall sports and like pick a day that like all of them are going to show up and support a unified basketball game. I think that really will help kind of like elevate the experience for those athletes.
And I know that some of the unified participants got awards at awards night and stuff, so it's very exciting. It's great. So thank you for your work there, too.
No problem.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you again for coming. I did have one quick question. The Unibank agreement does not preclude other sponsors from stepping forward and
That's
sponsoring other
correct.
scoreboards, correct? Okay.
That's correct.
Awesome.
So-
I just wanted to throw that out there in case anybody else is watching, that might have a business that would be willing to sponsor another scoreboard for us.
So technically, if you look at the bottom of the scoreboard, how it goes across the whole bottom panel, you could cut that in half and you could have 2 sponsors on there too. So that's another option.
Cool. That's
Or maybe
excellent.
someone else would want to step up and then we could have a baseball one too, so that would also be awesome.
That'd be great. It would be great. Well, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed your first year with us.
I did. It was
And
very, very
we
exciting.
look forward to seeing you again in the fall.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great summer.
You too.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks,
Thank
Ashley.
you. What was that? What's going on? Okay. Next up, we have the NESDEC enrollment update.
All right. So this is a follow-up, and back maybe 2.5, 3 months ago, we asked NESDEC to work with us, provide an updated enrollment forecast with the construction taking place. There was initially some confusion between the planning department here in Grafton and NESDEC. Basically, what was being reported were a number of projects that weren't officially completed, but in essence, they were all completed. So the numbers for about a week kept myself, and I'm sure many of you, up at night, because it looked like, the floodgates were opening. So on April 11th, we met with the planning department, met with NESDEC, got them on the same page, and they issued a new update. They look at 3 things: projects currently under construction, kind of self-explanatory, projects that haven't started yet, but have been approved, and then projects in the approval pipeline. So it's really that first thing that obviously we're most concerned with, and then it decreases from there. There are projects in the approval pipeline that have literally been there, 10-plus years and haven't moved. So the updated projected yield for those projects under construction would be as listed. The impact on enrollment over the next 2 to 5 years is what NESDEC is looking at. So definitely an increase in students, but not one that would trigger necessarily, unless these are erroneous, a need for a new school or new development. It is obviously any new students any significant increase, 12, 15, 25 plus in a grade level, we're going to be pushed at some of the schools to, right now, we don't have like art on a cart. We're just not really pushed right now. We're in a good space. So down the road, we certainly could be pushed for space. These are the ones, so again, this is under construction currently, 2 to 5 years. This is potential impact even further out, less of an impact, but still an increase. On the plus side, our Chapter 70 numbers, having more students, we do bring in some additional funding, but space would be the worry. Again, I'm not particularly worried about it now, but going forward, and obviously, let's be clear, there's no real magic at all to them. They're taking their best guess in terms of what's going to move. If everybody that moves in just happens to be in 3rd and 4th grade, that's going to be a challenge for us. And then, obviously, this is right out of that memo. This just talks about what's in the approval pipeline, being that it's permitted or pending, and then that potential student yield for those just in the approval. And that's all I have on that. Any questions about NESDEC's update?
Yeah, I have a question. On the K through 5, is it broken down by section of, no,
Isn't-
okay.
No. It's a good question and a very real one. Since I've been here, we've never had to mess with that line that's arbitrarily dividing North and South Grafton. It served us incredibly well. I'm not quite sure how, but it's been miraculous. So if it played out where we had more students than anticipated or all on one side, we may have to look at adjusting that line.
That's all.
Any other questions?
No, that was my question.
Okay, so this is the final version of this, and then we ask them again in 5 years to do a refresh, or?
They'll come in, we have an ongoing contract with them. I think next year they actually come in and do, if it's not next year, it's the year after. And, but, I mean, we can ask them at any time.
Right.
They'll come in and I should mention that going forward, I did meet with the planning department and Evan Broussard about just changing up how we communicate projects. Basically, I get this giant, I don't know, a pile of documents about a project. When I first started 13 years ago, I used to kind of freak out and look at it and what is the impact, but it seemed like 99 times out of 100, it actually never went forward. So after a few years, they didn't mean much to me. So we're going to have regular meetings, including Evan, just to get a sense of where we stand with projects. Like, what's the reality in terms of timeline and impact?
And
So-
once things get to the level of the planning board and they put out the call to the departments, I think I saw something come through where they ask, because I know they ask water, sewer, and they should be asking us to
Yeah,
comment.
They do. It's a challenge in that
Right.
it's really 1.5 kids per unit.
Right.
But the difference between a 4-bedroom, 2-bed, yeah, it's fairly complex, but that's the discussions we should have
Yeah.
as opposed to just an email or just a memo.
Right,
So I felt really good about going forward.
good. Anybody else?
I have a question, which is something you probably can't answer, but I mean, all of these numbers are obviously slowly increasing, and it doesn't look like that's probably going to stop anytime soon. And so it is sort of at some point, we do need to have the conversation of when we're going to hit that point.
Sure.
So I do feel like we don't have to do it yay, but we do also have to have that conversation at some point. That's not a question. That's just, that's how I feel.
Saying yes.
Well, I think the good thing is that the birth rates of people who are here now are on the decline anyway. So that's giving us that extra space, I think, that we need. But yeah, I think eventually we are going to run out of space in terms of the town itself.
I
The
hope,
question is going to be what comes first.
right, exactly.
The town
Where
or
are
the
we gonna hit
schools
that?
and,
Yep.
but that's why keeping an eye on it, I think, is so important. And I don't know, I know there's no magic number that, like, as soon as we see this number of students, it's time to start building
Right.
a school. Like, that's not how it
Absolutely.
works, but,
Yep.
but at least being able to reassure the public that we're watching,
Yep.
having those letters of response in the planning board packets for each project is helpful when they go to hearings. Because there are people that look at that from other towns and they see other towns have those letters from the school district. Because overcrowding the schools is not a reason to not develop. It's not a legal
Right.
defense, so.
Absolutely.
And I'm more saying that for out there.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that everybody's aware that we're watching. Jay's doing a great job. We've reached out to NESDEC a year early. And it's a good thing we did because we found some errors in
Right.
what we had, so
I
that's
think we
great.
can be more proactive, and I hope that's what I got across tonight, in terms of numbers, but also the impact in terms of space.
Agreed.
It's wild how many of those have been on there for 10 years, you're right.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you,
yeah.
Jay. It's crazy. All right. Anything else on that? All right, we'll move on to the annual review of the bullying prevention and intervention plan.
All right, so annually, the school committee is obligated to review the district's bullying prevention and intervention plan. The regulation is it needs to be annually. It can be more than that. We could bring it up anytime you like. To look at it, it's definitely a living document. I think Christy and Amy both sent me some edits. I made those edits, put them in, but as the committee sees things that don't read well or is confusing, we want that feedback. This isn't just a once-a-year thing where we can make edits. So you'll or many of you were here when the plan was rewritten in February of 2023. We based it on the DESI model. It was evaluated through the tiered focused monitoring process in the fall of '24. DESI has a website dedicated to bullying where they have the plan up there, and any changes in Mass General Law or any regulations that would impact the model plan are shared. There have been no new DESI updates since our last adoption. So I'm here before you to review it in June 2024, obviously. In terms of reporting, we have really two ways to get reports. School-based, and that could be an email. It could be somebody talks to a principal, talks to a teacher, talks to any staff member. We also have anonymous reporting. That is through a system that's hosted on our website. It's been used about 15 times this year. Generally very helpful. As soon as we get a report, we have a system in place. It could be 2 a.m, and we unfortunately, well, it's a good thing, but we've got a system in place where I'm notified, certain individuals are notified, and somebody, if there's any concern, immediate concern, we contact that parent. So that's a great system for us to have, and it works very, very well. Over the past year in grades 7 through 12, we had 22 allegations. So that's anybody that comes forward and says, my son or daughter's being bullied, I'm being bullied, what have you. Obviously, there's a criteria to actually meet or reach the bar of actually being considered bullying. We still address it no matter what, but there is a difference between teasing and bullying. So we had 7 confirmed instances, 7 through 12, and 1 confirmed pre-K through 6. We have yet to receive that Worcester Youth Health Survey results, so that was done last fall. They haven't, I was told through Roseanne Krposka that they're about to release it, but they haven't yet. The timing's not great. I met with the Shrewsbury superintendent, that board, and the Worcester superintendent probably a month ago here, actually, and shared that we need that data sooner. I mean, getting it, if we get it in a week, I'm still happy to get it, but the timing is lousy. So they did assure us that going forward, we can get that much more quickly. In today's day and age, we could spend quite a bit of money and purchase a system to get that feedback, and we'd have it literally like almost instantly. And they definitely understood that. So once we get that data back, what we do over the summer is, part of the work we do with the administrative team is look at our internal data, look for patterns, and then we, assuming we have it, we bring in that Worcester Health Alliance data to kind of correlate and see what checks out, what doesn't. And, yep, that's all I have. I can take any questions.
Amy?
Oh, hi, Laura.
Thank you. Jay, for the anonymous reporting, how is that communicated to students and families? Do people know about it? It's easy to, I mean, I looked at it today to just kind of look at the form and everything, but are people aware of it, that we have anonymous reporting?
Sure, we could do, but, I mean, you can never do
I
too
know.
good a job.
Maybe
but,
that's a question to
It's definitely
Riley.
utilized, and it's definitely utilized pretty consistently.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it looks like there was 15 reports, so it's utilized. So Riley, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, but is that something that you're aware of? Is there like,
I wouldn't say that it's generally like this is a resource to go where you're building. I think there's like loopholes to it that make, or not loopholes.
Yeah.
Like
Links.
Sort links is to
That's
it if you
fine,
go
yeah.
searching. But I wouldn't say it's like put up in like orientation or anything. It's just if you're looking for it, I think you can probably find it on the website.
So we can certainly do that. I take as the, we can do, I'm sure, a better job advertising it. If we're doing a really good job, that's not actually utilized very often. I
right,
would hope
hopefully you're not,
that
yeah,
You
absolutely.
feel I'm not gonna put you on the spot, but if you, I'd
Right.
hope you'd have 3 to 5 individuals you feel comfortable going to saying, like, you get it, it is anonymous. A lot of times people feel like if it's anonymous, they actually have to stay anonymous, which makes it really hard to say this kid is picking on me, but you don't have the victim.
Right. Right. I could see it maybe more used as if I have a concern about another student type thing, or I've heard threats or
something, right.
things like that. That would, like, I could see it being used that way.
In the 15 reports, I considered those ones that were actually tied to some event. Sometimes we probably have maybe 50 that are just like random, somebody's like joking around and put something in that just has no kind of rhyme or reason. But these 15, we followed up with an actual aggressor and an actual victim and brought it to some sort of resolution.
Yeah.
How are the pre-K through 6 getting reported? And, I mean, you don't have allegations and confirmed there, but I'm, like, is that coming from students? Is that coming from parents? And is it different?
Typically, I mean, we definitely have both.
Okay.
Typically, I'd like to think we're catching it at the very early level with the fill in the blank is crying and saying,
Right.
he just hit me in the
Yeah.
head with a Lego or whatever. We've certainly seen instances where a parent has voiced concern about an individual in the class or
Yeah.
recess, what have you.
Right. I just know that, I mean, and I have not delved into this research, but through hearsay of research that bullying peaks in elementary. So we're either doing a really good job or we're missing some. And I'm hoping we're doing a really good job, and that's great, but I just
Sure.
would love to make sure we're catching stuff at that age group also.
And the 7 and the 1 have risen to the actual level of bullying. Obviously, the hope
Yeah.
is to get to 0, and that could look like,
Yes.
oh, we don't have any, but we definitely have incidents.
Of course,
That-
absolutely.
And a lot of times, especially 7-12, I'm not going to say all of them, but definitely a great majority have a component with social media in there. There's, a lot of them are primarily social media, not actually in school, but it
Yes.
plays into school. So that's a big difference that we typically don't have pre-K through 6. Sometimes
Fair.
if there's 6, but nothing like 7-12.
And I just want to reiterate publicly and talk through, the 22 allegations to 7 confirmed. There's very defined ways it's not like we blew 15 of them off, right? We went through a process
Gosh,
and.
no, we've
And looked at,
addressed-
yeah, of
I mean,
course.
the allegation piece, if you look at that
Yeah.
next level up of incidents, I mean.
Yeah, it's even
Cody
more.
and Deb
Yeah.
Goodwill will tell you.
There are many, many, right?
That's a day.
Yeah.
You know, there's always going to be issues with 900 kids
Of
at a high school.
course.
There just are.
But we go through the policy and we walk through.
Oh, yeah,
Sort of
yeah.
all the criteria to kind of get to,
Yep, that repeated behavior.
of course. Okay, great.
I had a question, that I missed this before I emailed you, but on the diagram on page 5, which is the planning and oversight section, it lists the titles of individuals that are responsible for certain tasks, and we still have assistant superintendent listed a couple times. Is that you now? Are you taking those jobs over? or-
I don't have it in front of me, but,
Okay.
or I make Mandy do it is basically what happens, yeah.
Okay. Might be worth taking out the word assistant then, so that it's not
Happy to do that.
complete confusing. Anybody else?
With these confirmations, how far have you gotten with remedial actions? Is it that kids, do you find typically once they're spoken to, that it just kind of ends, or?
I mean, every case is obviously very different. We have every year we have a number of safety plans put into place. It might be the separation of the students. That's about, and paired with consequences being suspension. We haven't gone beyond that. It's definitely, the tenor has definitely changed over, I've been doing this a little while, but when I was a principal, I don't know, bullying was just seen as, or many adults and students saw it as like a rite of passage almost, or like, oh, that happened to me. Given the state's position on that and on bullying and the severity of what can be done to address bullying, that's definitely taken root. It's not perfect by any means, but I find that parents and students are very receptive to the actions that we're taking around bullying.
Yeah, there's a lot of data collection too, because we do the scheduled check-ins with everyone involved, and we collect data over a time
It's
period, a
very
predetermined
labor intensive.
time period.
In terms of meeting with parents,
Exactly. Yep.
check-ins. I know you've read through the plan. There's a lot. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely very comprehensive.
And I would argue effective.
I would too. I mean, ideally, we don't get to the point where we even need it, but
Right.
when we do, it is effective.
Else? Okay, thank you.
All right.
We'll move on now to the collaborative update.
All right. I provided in your folder two updates from the two collaboratives that we belong to. We belong to the SWEC and ABC, the Southern Worcester Educational Collaborative, and the Assabet Valley Collaborative. They have to present a quarterly report, and I simply need to share it with all of you. There's nothing too exciting in there. Right now, our participation in both collaboratives is fairly minimal. We have, this past year, maybe 3 or 4 students at each of the collaboratives. They do a really nice job, but in both collaboratives, we actually have the fewest number of students participating, typically. Both of the collaboratives are doing very well, and I'm very happy that we, as a district, are participating with them.
Questions? No. Comments? Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Oh, where are you going? You're up again.
Superintendent report.
Superintendent report.
Superintendent report, the class of 2024 did a fantastic job finishing up their high school careers. Talk about incidents and all that stuff, it was really incident-free, which was fantastic. So senior activities were great. I know a lot of you were able to attend some of those, senior night, graduation. I thought graduation was awesome. I've recovered from my heart attack that Sydney Vaca gave me. When I thought she was going to walk into the orchestra pit. And so anyhow, A+ to them. We are gearing up to hit the ground running in terms of summer projects. As Ashley mentioned before, maintenance could not be doing a better job. Once students and staff leave, that's one phase, and then literally the next day, we start in with projects. We probably have more projects going on this year than we've had in the past decade. So really ambitious, it's going to be super busy, hopefully supply chain and everything else works out. But really good stuff with that department, and I'm guessing that Riley's going to talk about this, but G-term this week at GHS.
Yep.
Look at that tie-in.
So should I build off of that right now?
Sure, why not?
Okay, I have a little list, but to start off with G-term, it's today and tomorrow. Some of these include baking, there's a bake-off, a Boston trip to see the Freedom Trail. I'm doing one, I was lucky to shadow with Representative Meridian, so today I just went around the school district and then to Northbridge, and I got to meet some people there. And then tomorrow I'm going to the State House, which is really exciting, so it's a really great opportunity, and I'm glad to do this instead of finals. I can say that for myself. And then I do have more. Let's see. Graduation, like Dr. Cummings mentioned, was on the 31st. Valedictorian, Liam Shaker, and then the salutatorian, Rohi Nukala, gave really well-written speeches. And then the performance was Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls, which I thought was really good. And then Bon Voyage week, as you mentioned, was the week of the 27th, and the seniors were given the breakfast, the senior night, and then they had their Bon Voyage party, which was the lock-in the night of graduation, a ton of activities. And then class elections were held on the 6th for the juniors, and then the 10th, or yesterday, for the sophomores and freshmen. For the juniors, I think we had 5 total candidates for the 4 positions. And then for the sophomores, there were 11 candidates, and then the freshmen, there were 15. So I think that's a good reflection of wanting to get more involved. And then for our civics projects, juniors, you probably know about this bill, have to do a civic project, so they do that their junior year of history. And so across the district, they'll be taking, there's some goes from arguing for pickleball courts to trying to clean the lake. Ours, my group's personally we're trying to get some more support for transitioning 8th graders to freshmen across the district. So those are all going on. I'm sure some of you have gotten some emails or letters mailed to you. And then the last thing I had down was that we met about senior pictures through Cass and Foster. Those are starting to be planned to be booked for the yearbook. And we get some deals. We get a free indoor session if we do it before July 26th. So just so people are aware of that, to be included in the yearbook. Yeah. And that's all I had.
Great, thank you, Riley. You want to just keep going and then we'll circle
Sure.
back to her? Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Riley. Have a
Oh,
nice
bye,
summer.
Riley. Have a great summer.
Thanks, Riley.
Great
All right, so
summer, Riley.
tonight, Mindy and I wanted to share 5 job descriptions. They're not new positions in that we have existing staff members who we believe will apply for, and our own existing staff would fill those positions. We're looking at restructuring those existing positions within our curriculum department, looking to increase efficiency and greater coverage of pre-K through 12 needs. This really came out of a little bit before COVID, a little after COVID, where we have good people doing great work, but it's just not set up in a way that's as streamlined as I'd like to see it. In this effort, we're going to be able to eliminate one administrative FTE, and that's Tracy Kalo's existing 7 through 12 position. She'll be moving into the co-principal position at the high school. So this is what we had before. We had 2+ FTEs that were administrators. So Jen Mannion as the director, we had Tracy as the full-time coordinator, and then Steve Wiltshire was the co-principal at North Street Elementary School, and also doing some work when he could free himself up to be the pre-K through 6 coordinator. From From there, we had a literacy leader and a math leader, and then three coaches. Again, really not through a master design, we just kind of added over the years. So we had this, and we are looking to move to this structure where we'd have Jen still being the director of curriculum and learning. We would have 2 STEM coordinators, 126, 1712, so science, technology, engineering, and math. And then on the other side, if you will, humanities, so literacy, social studies, we'd have a coordinator 26, another at 712. And then at the pre-K through 1 level, we'll also have that coordinator with that literacy focus. So that's not really particularly new for us, but we're going to try to have that person focus on pre-K through 1. I'm sure there will be some carryover to grade 2 as well, in partnership with the 2-6 humanities coordinator. So that is the old structure. This is the new structure, and we put in your packet and in that drive folder, the 5 job descriptions for your consideration.
One thing that I'll also highlight as we're looking at the job descriptions is the goal obviously was to streamline, and the way that we've mapped out these new positions has each individual working with only 1 to 2 schools. Currently, they're kind of stretched a little thin in the curriculum department, and I think that this is going to help make sure that there's parity between the north side of town and the south side of town at the elementary level, and really help, like Riley was just speaking to, that transition from middle school to high school from a curriculum standpoint as well.
Does anyone have any questions, comments?
I have a couple
Laura?
questions, Amy. So thank you for this. I think this makes a lot of sense. Just a couple, one I think is obvious. So these will be posted. They're not automatically filled, right? So,
Assuming the committee
yeah, right.
approves it tonight, we would post tomorrow.
Right.
And after 10 days.
And then in the humanities, and it might be in here and I might have missed it, is there any lookout for any kind of arts as well within, when we talk about on the STEM side, the science, technology, engineering, and math, humanities kind of literature, and is there a place for kind of looking at arts?
No,
music?
we can put it in, but it
Would that just not make sense?
I mean, we could put it in as kind of like a nice to have. I think when I look at a district our size having a teaching and learning department of 6 people, it's spread ridiculously thin. So it came up like we could put a STEAM,
Right.
but for
That's gonna be a
2
hard
people
position
to
to fill.
cover 270 teachers and
Right. Yeah.
everything. We can do it, but I just want to note that it's, I'm going to say inauthentic, and I don't mean it like that, but I just don't know how we get to it.
Okay, that's the answer. Thank you.
I have a question then, in that case. So what sections, what things are not covered then in this group?
So
So
anything that isn't is going to fall under our Jen
Just
Manion,
Jen,
the director.
under Jen. Got it.
Steve Wiltshire still is the co-principal at North Street Elementary School. He's still looking to take on additional responsibilities and projects. We very purposefully, it might be the arts. It could be doing more with ESL. Like we don't have a director of ESL. Like if it's not on there, it basically falls under Jen.
got it. Okay.
Is that great? It isn't. So the arts piece might be picked up by Steve, but I don't also want to say everything under the sun that's not under math and literacy is going to be picked up by Steve. That's not realistic.
And it's also at least the pre-K through 6 level, those classes are sort of one teacher potentially, and so
right.
it's more of a high school level, middle school, high school level. Anyway,
And I think to pick back on what you're saying just now is I feel the need for a vertical alignment through the district
yeah.
in the music and arts, that either I'm not seeing it because we just don't talk about it, or it's a need. And I don't know if it's because of COVID or, things just, we're getting the band back together, so to speak, right? The bands are getting bigger again, the choruses are getting bigger again. But just making sure that both academically and extracurricularly, there's a plan in place, an alignment, if you will, of what's going on in the different buildings. Am I making any sense at all?
No, you're making sense. I think we're just airing a real challenge for us.
It is a real challenge.
6 people,
Yeah.
and this isn't a knock on Westboro, but they'll have easily 3 times this.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they have one person that does music and the arts.
That's just the way it is.
Yep.
but,
Yep.
um,
But they have
we've
fewer
gotta
buildings,
Figure
too.
that out.
And I think, also, I think we have organically developed a pretty amazing vertical alignment, but I just don't think, I think it's intentional on an individual level, and it's probably not as well planned as it could be, but we're doing a really great job of it, so.
And we typically have, like, let's say Steve fills in, like, his bread and butter isn't the arts, as opposed to a district that has a director of arts and blah, blah, blah.
That being
we have that?
said, that being said, we have people who are head of their department. So we have like Mr. Trombley, who, so I didn't mean to open a can of worms with my questions or.
It's a very legitimate, I think.
But that we do obviously have department heads that
Yes.
work on some of these things as well.
Yep.
Yeah, we did, there was a change this year at the middle school that I think was a positive change in the way that the music is run there. And I think that's, from an outsider's perspective, it looked great, sounded great, kids seemed happy, lots of kids involved. So I think that was probably a good change. But yeah. Anybody have any questions on these job descriptions? We can approve them in one motion if the committee so chooses. I just need to hear it.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I vote that the committee approve the job descriptions for the 5 existing positions that are being restructured in 2024, 2025. Do you need me to name them out?
Nope.
I second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Thanks.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mandy, I think you're up. Unless that was it.
So, no, I have a little bit more to update you
Excellent.
on. It's been a pleasure seeing all of you so much recently as we work through negotiations. But in addition to that, we are also gearing up for summer hiring. So since we last met, we really started to look at our hiring needs for the upcoming school year. As it stands right now, we could always receive another resignation or something like that in the coming weeks. But as it stands right now, between retirements and resignations and just shifting of staff, we had 20 total openings. The overwhelming majority of those were teacher positions, not necessarily classroom teacher, but speech language and things like that, but on the teacher contract. Behavior department, a custodian, and I'm happy to say that 10 of those are already filled, and 5 I have recommended candidates, so they're kind of in the pipeline of the hiring. Our building administrators have been doing a great job with the interviewing process and bringing on some really skilled candidates, and I have been really pleased with who makes it to that final level with me. And it's always really fun to meet with the people who are going to be joining our district and sharing a little bit about our team with them and seeing their enthusiasm for joining us as well. So we've got 5 positions that are kind of still out there and being interviewed for. But I think we're in a really good place, and we're looking forward to the summer with new teacher orientation and developing that. I think we do a really good job making that a meaningful experience for our new hires so that they're not sitting through trainings that don't apply to their position or their grade level or anything like that. And I also work closely with Neil Trahan to run some optional technology and HR info sessions, and just give the people who are coming on board a chance to sit down and ask all of those kind of minutia type questions about how to log into the systems and getting their passwords and things like that, so that we're not filling new teacher orientation with that kind of level of detail. So it's all in the works, and we're headed in a really great direction going into the summer. And that's all.
Anybody have questions? You don't happen to have a list of retirees? Or you could send it out to
I
committee.
do in my head, and I could absolutely get that to you within the next 5 minutes. I just want
I
to
mean,
make
it's-
sure that
yeah,
I don't
it's-
miss
we
anyone.
we usually do mention it at the end of the year, but if you wanted to just send a
Yeah.
memo to the committee, that's fine.
I can get it for you, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions for Mandy? All right. Future agenda planning. Okay. So this is just based on what we did this past year.
Correct.
Do you want to lead this, or want me to lead it?
Sure, I thought you were trying to get me to,
No,
sorry.
I
Just to
can-
create a jumping off point for the committee, I took everything from, or just about everything from this year and applied it into the 24-25 calendar. I kept Tuesdays as the meeting day, and I highlighted November 5th as potentially a conflict with the election day. And that was it. There wasn't anything beyond that. I just moved it over so we had a foundation to go off of.
So it says canceled on the 19th. Is that because we had canceled that meeting this year, or is that just,
Oh, I have no
that's
idea.
wrong?
Yeah, I think that's just from this year.
I had an idea that I wanted to put before the committee on how to handle November. Because we only have one meeting in December. And if this is too aggressive, that's fine. I'll listen to the feedback. If we moved the November 5th to the 12th and met 2 weeks in a row, we could get both meetings in before Thanksgiving because it's late this year. That would not put us meeting the Tuesday before Thanksgiving break, because that is the following week. We don't usually do it because of that. How do we feel about that?
I have no problem
fine.
with that.
I think that's
I
a
have
great
no
idea.
problem.
Yeah, because we
that's
do
how
not
you
want to,
do it.
you won't be here on the 5th anyway, right?
Right.
You'll be working.
You'll be
Oh, yeah,
working.
no, I can't make the 5th.
And I'm not doing that again.
No,
Bad luck to sit here on election night.
I also,
No.
yeah, I feel like
It's
it's
horrible.
not a great,
It's just no.
no.
Yeah, it's a
Let's
no.
just,
I
I'm
agree.
fine
It's a
with
no.
this.
Yeah, 2
Okay.
weeks in a row, I think is fine.
okay, great.
If you guys, I think it's
November
work for
12th?
Jay, so
Does it
making
work
sure,
Does it work for you,
Yeah,
Jay?
yeah.
making sure that we can do that. My concern, I mean, I think we're gonna be very heavy budget, like, more than we were this year probably, just
Right.
thinking about what we might need, so. I think those meetings will be more important than they have been the past couple years, because we haven't.
Which is why I didn't want to
Yeah,
Just not.
get
have
rid of one, because of, again,
Right.
we only meet the one time in
right,
December.
and we can always add if we need it. But I think that's a fine idea. We'll probably complain about it when it happens. Duly noted. There.
The other idea that, that has come up is the idea of meeting in August. Not my favorite thing, but hear me out. We're going to have to make, we're going to have to do approvals to the handbook. And we should ideally do that before classes begin. And Jay had a nice thought to do, something a little more fun. Maybe have dinner brought in, do it in another room, do the approvals.
outside.
And then that would be it. We wouldn't do, much in the way
other
of
business.
deliberation. It would still be a posted meeting because it has to be, but we could do something, quick. And if we can't make it fit with everybody's travel schedules, then we'll just have to go with who we can get.
Okay.
I'm around in
So what I'll do is, rather than sit here and,
Do calendars.
rather than sit here and do the calendar thing, what I would propose is that I'll just send an email around with a little thingy that people can fill out. You just put in when you're not available. I'm not gonna ask you where you are, what you're doing, just not available. And then I'll work with Jay and we'll get a date. How's that sound?
Okay.
Great. I have a question or
Sure.
a thought. We might also possibly need to meet to approve some contracts as well.
Yes.
That is all, that was the other thing we mentioned, yeah,
Could be that we may need to meet,
okay.
so just to keep that
Yep.
on the radar. Hopefully that will happen.
But I feel like those we're going to have to sort of do more on the fly, right?
Yeah,
When we need to meet.
yep. How do people feel about Zoom meetings over the summer? Bad, good? Try to do in person if we can, and then,
I
okay.
prefer in
All right.
person.
Okay. All right.
I have another,
Yep.
I think that we should move the June 10th Student Advisory Council meeting to earlier in the year because no one's going to come.
So that was my
the
next
end of the
thing.
year.
Read my mind. So I did talk to Jay about coming up with some other, because we're supposed to do 4, we only did 3 this year, because I kind of made a call and said, you know what, we're not going to try to get kids to show up. We were supposed to do it tonight. We weren't going to get anybody tonight.
No one's coming to.
So yeah, I would like to fit them in differently, so we can do 4 throughout the year. I also wanted to kind of gauge the committee's reaction to maybe not doing it up here before a meeting, maybe doing it another time down at the high school. We still have to post it because it's still a meeting, but maybe if we can kind of meet them on their turf, we can get more involvement and participation.
So are you thinking like an after-school meeting?
Yeah, is it possible?
So that's
make
tough,
that
right?
easy,
Because
right.
some
People
people
have
work, and
jobs,
and I
yeah.
want to absolutely be, we want, maybe we got to do like some of each, right? Maybe they're kids that, are only available right after school because they can't get a ride otherwise, they want to participate, but they can't.
Right.
Maybe other ones we do later, and we could switch off who goes too. We don't all have to go to every single one. So, something to think about. If you have thoughts and ideas, love to hear them. I had thought to maybe reach out to the MASC listserv. I think you had done that, to see if
Yeah.
anybody had any interesting, and we didn't get a whole
There's
lot,
a-
did we?
There's a lot of different ways that people have been doing it.
Okay, maybe I'll just do a search and see.
Yeah, I
what-
mean, we do double, so like a lot of people, that's their student, which I think you would refer, like, that's
Yeah.
their student, they don't have like a Megan and a
reps,
Riley,
yeah.
which I think what we have is, like, people were
Yeah.
impressed with what we had. I do think we need to change it up, like,
Yeah,
it's like such a great idea in concept.
yes,
And in practice,
yes.
I think we could, I love the idea to change it up.
I wonder if we could have, well, I mean, we can spitball ideas all we want, but I wonder, it would be kind of neat if they were like themed meetings, like we're meeting 4 times a year. This time we're going to talk
Yeah,
about this.
we did
and-
try to actually do that this year, and it just,
Yeah.
like, and also it's, that the kids that want to come to do this, it just goes in a different direction. I mean, it's helpful, but is it
Yeah.
stuff that the school committee,
Yeah,
and some of them I've learned at MASC, they'll have like pizza with the principal first, and the principal tells them what to say, not in Grafton, in other districts. We don't want that. Like, it's so bizarre. Like, it's such a nice idea, but it just,
tell them what to say.
well,
That sounds
like,
awful.
don't.
I know what you
well,
mean,
know
but
what I mean?
yeah.
Like, and that's not happening in Grafton, but that's what was like some practice that was going on because they didn't want the kids coming to the school committee and airing the dirty laundry, like, it's just, but it's hard because it's like student to school committee.
It's a big bridge.
Right.
Yeah.
It is.
Like, we want to hear, we want to listen. It's super helpful to hear, but then it's like in practice, it's like, okay, well, and it's high school kids, so then we're like looking at Mr. Carney.
Yeah.
It's just, it's.
Well, it's something that I definitely
challenging.
want to work on.
Yeah, I love
um,
that.
And maybe we can make some decisions at the August meeting. Everybody think about it. And we'll come together and see what we can do. But I would like to try to do the first one in September, and I think if we push it back
Yeah.
the whole thing forward, I always get that wrong, but you know what I'm saying. If we can do it earlier, do it in September. We have to plan around all those open houses and whatnot. But, and I definitely want to be sensitive to people's work schedules, so keep reminding me of that, please.
Here to help.
Forever reminding everybody that I have a job.
Well, and I don't like to assume it's a 9 to 5 situation either, because there's plenty of people out there that have much more flexible. Okay, let me make sure. The only other thing I had was that, food services, we did not get them in tonight. I don't know do we need to have them in the fall?
Totally up to you.
Do we want to hear from food services in the fall? We historically do have them come in
Yep.
this time
we
of
do.
year. They couldn't make this one. not
I
negotiating
enjoy
here
hearing
from
from them.
You would or wouldn't?
I do enjoy hearing.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, well, then, I don't want to waste anybody's time.
No, I like
So,
to hear from them. It's always a good
So
update.
maybe if we can get them in September, Jay?
Sure.
That would be
It might
awesome.
be better. I think historically, we used to have them in the June because of finances, but now that it's paid for,
makes sense.
I think it might make sense to have it more be in the fall so they can promote
Yeah, great idea.
their services and things like that and get people kind of pumped, or help us get people pumped for school lunch.
Yeah,
Pumped for the tater tots.
I hear the food is
They're
much better
free
this
now,
year.
so.
They're free.
I'm very pumped for this school lunch.
Okay.
It's not the school lunch of yesteryear.
It is not.
Any other? Yeah, I think we're going off the rails again.
Sorry.
Any other
Excuse
thoughts?
Not now.
Do we know when the election's gonna be? I just see the reorganization.
It'll be the same.
So it'll be the
it'll-
20th or
It'll be the, yes, it'll be the week before.
Late again.
Right
Yeah.
here. Okay.
Yep. And that meeting could end up having more on it too. It's just, that's what we had this year.
Right,
So
yeah, it could.
we might have food services report on the 27th, who knows?
It'll be 2 weeks later.
Or we move that out completely and just do it at the fall from now on. That's probably better.
I like it in the fall.
Me too. And I like having athletics twice.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
agree.
like that follow-up. That
Yeah,
was,
that was nice.
Felt
That
full
was-
circle.
Not even because she was new, but just because there's so much.
The fall is.
And there's so many students involved, I feel like it's important.
Yep, agreed.
Okay. We good on that?
Great.
Thanks, Amy.
All right,
Thing.
move on to approval of minutes.
There was a typo,
Yeah, Miss Foughton.
yep, in Laura's name, but that's all I
sorry.
found. It was an issue.
I think there's one or two.
I
There
can't
might have been.
find
I
it
think
now,
there might
of
have been
course, 'cause I
another
didn't
one.
write it here, but.
But with the correction of typos, Madam Chair, I move that we accept the minutes.
Can you
of-
identify where the error is?
Yeah.
Maybe.
For Jay, he's trying to.
It was real obvious when I was looking at it
I know.
earlier.
It's so funny. I see it better on the screen.
All right, I'll look through it.
It's,
So it's
her
Laura,
last
it's Laura's
name
name.
starts with an F
Yeah,
instead of,
it's-
like the
it's
F
like
and the O are
switched.
switched.
That's
Okay.
all it is.
All right, I think I heard a motion, but would you mind repeating it?
Of course, Madam Chair, with the correction of the typo, I move that the school committee approve the minutes of May 28th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, abstentions? Great. I can't find it now, I noticed.
It's under
I'll look.
policy.
And
It's
around
under the
the
policy
floor over it.
subcommittee.
Oh, there we go.
Just look at
I
it
think
right there
it's-
where I was looking at it.
We could
Clearly
leave it.
fine.
Oh, it's not even that it's a typo, it's completely wrong. Okay.
You
Thought-
found it?
thought it
You
was
find it?
Fofton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Good.
found it.
Thank you.
If it's okay, I just wanted to thank Rebecca Mahoney.
absolutely.
We've gone through
Yes.
a lot of different people doing the minutes over the
She's
years.
incredible.
And done just an amazing job,
Yep.
so easy to work
So
with.
thorough.
Yep.
We're lucky to have her.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Is she
completely
staying?
agree.
Please say she's staying.
I haven't heard otherwise. So you
Yes.
jinxed it.
The pointing out of the typo was not a dig or
Nope.
anything.
No, it
We are
happens to everybody.
loving the,
I know.
Yes.
the great work on the minutes.
Yep. All right. Financial report. The warrant will go first. 2.
Yep, 2 warrants.
Where's the warrant number of this?
46, I think.
Am I supposed to say it? Oh, cool. Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that the school committee accept warrant W-45 in the amount of $274,186.19.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Opposed, abstentions? Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
I move that the school committee accept warrant W-46 in the amount of $242,205.46.
Second.
Motion moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. abstentions? No, okay, good, awesome, thank you. And I just want to, thank Kathleen Longarini for her work this year. Getting these warrants on DocuSign has made it super, super easy and user-friendly. And I'm hoping that everything's
was-
working great for you.
Smooth.
Excellent.
As smooth can be. It was
Excellent,
amazing.
great.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. I'll miss our emails. Quarterly report on the FY '24 budget. Is that you, Jay?
Sure. So before you is that final quarterly report on FY '24. As you know, we shifted a number of, we made some changes in terms of the accounts, how we structured the accounts over this past year. So we're going to have more journal entries at the end of this month into early July than we typically do. As a result, we are going to have a full report on all of those shifts, so that you can see what was, maybe one account looks really low, but in actuality, was spent from a different account. So we've got to do that. Should be a one-time effort to make the switch, but a full report will be provided the first 2 weeks of July, is my estimate.
Questions?
We're in good shape. It looks like we're to the good, like $5 million, and that's lovely, but we have
Things coming in.
payroll to pay. Yeah.
Right.
We
Yes.
will expect to land the Queen Mary to the good by a little bit.
Great, thank you very much. And thank you to you and your staff for all your hard work and helping us to not go over budget. It's a miracle every year. I really don't know how you do it.
Well, Kathleen and her team have done a really nice job.
Good. We will move on to policy. Laura?
Yeah, it's just me tonight. This is leftover. We had the first reading of this policy a month ago. We had a minor edit where we were just changing his or her to they, keeping with our updates of the policy. So I just present this updated policy, doesn't change. It's basically the superintendent's job description, and that we hire him under the general law and what they do. So, yeah.
Can I ask a question on this?
Yeah.
Why do we keep this policy as our own and don't use the MASC version?
That is a good question. I think, Christine, it's because we really took a lot of, it's mostly for the inclusivity of it. And I know that sounds strange. I believe and I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I believe the MASC one does a his or her still.
It doesn't.
It doesn't?
No.
Oh, well, in that case, I think, no, it does. It does.
They
It
shall
says,
also prepare such
the
reports.
superintendent shall lead his, her administrators and other employees. We've
The
changed
school
that.
committee shall employ, the MASC version. The committee shall employ a superintendent of schools to fix their compensation. The superintendent shall act in accordance with Mass General laws and shall perform such other duties consistent with sections of the common committee may determine. They shall also prepare such reports as may be required by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and shall submit material for the committee's annual report to the select board in sufficient time for printing in the annual report.
Oh, I'm looking at ours.
He doesn't do that, though. Do we have that in ours?
But
No, because we would, I think Christie's correct. So that would be one we would probably, I'll have to take a look at it, but that's a good point. Yeah, and we would typically go through that. So if you want, I can just save that and bring it back.
yeah,
in the
and
fall.
I think that too, we should also go with it because it references the general law, Mass General Law, Chapter 72, Section 3, which we are not identifying in ours, and it should be identified as part of the superintendent's duties.
Great, okay, thanks.
So are you withdrawing?
I guess I'll withdraw it, yeah,
Okay.
and I'll just bring it back.
Okay,
Jay,
great.
you'll be all right over the summer knowing what you need to do without that. You okay?
It's still there.
Keep them in
Just
line for
checking,
you.
just checking. Awesome, thanks, Christie.
All right. Member reports. Do we have any member reports this evening?
Many.
I have a,
I heard it.
No, go ahead.
go Rebecca, I heard her first.
No.
Go first, I heard you.
Okay, I'm sure we all have so many, I was going to say, because many of us went to graduation, which was amazing. That was what I was thinking about. Graduation was wonderful. Everyone said beautiful things. Music was amazing. Everyone looked fabulous. And I also was able to go on the Freedom Trail field trip with the fifth graders from Millbury Street Elementary School. It was so fun. It did not rain. It was not hot. No one ran in front of traffic. I learned a lot, actually. The tour guides were phenomenal. Like, I've walked the Freedom Trail before and learned nothing. And this was like fabulous. I'm like so much more patriotic. But it was really great. And I really enjoyed it. And I got to be with Rebecca Mahoney, who is, also been mentioned in this meeting. So I'll mention her again. She did an amazing job.
I've gone to book fair, field day, picnics. Oh, what else? The fourth graders at MSES had lovely floats, state float projects. And in case anybody is wondering who the famous person is from Utah, it is Mr. Carew, because he was born there. And he made a child's
very
float,
famous.
and it was amazing.
I love that.
So,
That's really cute.
Ditto. We all have, kids and we go to their things, so yep, North Street's moving up ceremony was yesterday, their tournament day and glow dance were tonight. All the kids are moving along really nicely, and it's that time of year where we're all wild and we're at the schools constantly, and I wouldn't change it for the world. How's that?
I was just actually going to thank all of the volunteers that make all of these events
Amazing.
possible. Ranging, I know Riley already talked about the Bon Voyage. It's run by a lot of different parents from different grades, all the way down to those book fairs that are organized by our parent groups and staffed by volunteers, field days, which are ran by our fitness and physical education teachers, but staffed by parents. All of those dances and things are not done without a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. So big appreciation to all of them. And we went to the intern night too.
Oh, we did go to
Yes.
intern night,
That
and
was
it was
pretty
great.
awesome.
What a great opportunity we have
Yeah,
here.
I was pretty impressed by those students, for sure.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Well, while you guys were doing all that, I watched the Grafton Middle School concert from my living room. And I love and appreciate the fact that we have been streaming, almost all the concerts have been live streamed this year, which is fantastic, especially for students who have family far away, who are never going to be able to get here to see them perform. So I would like to thank our arts teachers for their hard work and perseverance. I know I certainly enjoyed the concert this year. The kids were great. I love the inclusivity. We have several students with special needs that were participating in the concert, and it's so great to see them on the stage. I also attended the last MASC Learning Lunch of the year. Those of you who are not familiar, it's a online Zoomy program at lunch on a Friday, which is not the greatest day for learning MASC. But I did repeat the role of the chair session. That's how they wrapped up their year, so I now know what I'm supposed to do. I'm to be a servant leader and do what the committee tells me to do.
Yep.
Always. So I'm looking forward to the next year, and I'm looking forward to more of those MASC trainings, because they are super convenient, and if you can't make them live, they do put recordings online. So if you missed them and you want to go back, you can go do that instead of, sitting there and eating your lunch in front of your computer. I did want to thank you for the list of retirements. I did want to read the retirement list because we traditionally have read it and it's been in the minutes. So I'd like to congratulate and thank Fran Graves, the manufacturing teacher at GHS. Is it Angela Mercure from South Grafton Elementary School as a speech language pathologist? Paula Conlin from Grafton Middle School, an English teacher. Diane Sella from,
I believe. Yep.
is it
I
from South Grafton Elementary School, paraprofessional. Eugene Gagney, head custodian at Millbury Street School. And earlier this year, Rosemary Page from Accounts Payable, retired. So thank you and congratulations to all of our retirees. And I have nothing further. There is no correspondence. We do not need executive session. Is there any other business that can legally come before the board? Seeing none, I declare the meeting adjourned. Good night, Grafton. Have a great summer.